From the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and beaming out across all of space and time, this is Star Talk, where science and pop culture collide. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm the Frederick P. Rose Director of the Hayden Planetarium, right here in New York City. And tonight's topic, science and religion. Ooh. I've got with me my intrepid co-host, Eugene Merman.
Hello.
Eugene,
Great
my
to be
comedic
here.
co-host. Yeah? Excellent. And we're featuring today my interview with the renowned evolutionary biologist, Richard Dawkins. He's like primary atheist of the world. And so if you're going to talk about science and religion, you need people like that to find out where are they thinking, where are they taking us, what's it all about. But we couldn't just feature Richard Dawkins. We need some other views here. And so we combed the landscape. And we found a Jesuit priest. This is the academic order of the Catholic Church. And we have with us Father Martin. Welcome to Star Talk.
Thank you very much.
All right. So let me ask you something, but just flat out.
Sure.
Flat out. I don't have a problem if people feel spiritually when they contemplate the cosmos. And I may even feel some of that as well. I'm really talking about, as religion manifests in the world, the whole other portfolio of things you're supposed to do, the rituals that derive from it, the rules that come down from revealed text. That's a whole other conversation than telling me that I'm experiencing an open door to God when I'm on a mountaintop.
I think those are two different things. I think God and
Yeah,
religion.
but I believe you
Yeah.
that you see those as two different
Yeah.
things. But most people who are vocal and active and politically motivated do not.
But why should that keep you from God? I mean, if you have an experience of God, why should all the other stuff that distracts you keep you from that? I mean, like saying, I took a terrible course in science once, and all the teachers were terrible. Well, does that mean you don't believe in science anymore? No, it means you don't believe, or you haven't had a good experience of the other things, of the human element of it. So
What I
would
might ask
distinguish-
is, which God are you? Is it Zeus that I'm coming closer to? Because I am on the mountaintop where Zeus lived, Mount
Athena
Olympus.
did come out of his head.
Right. So maybe there's a particular God that you would rather it be than other gods that have come before people of the past. But I also know that throughout most of the history of science, some of the greatest scientists who have ever lived have been deeply religious themselves. But why must the mysterious require that there is a deity who's overseeing it?
Well,
In your mind, it sounds like they must go together.
Well, I think it's not that they must go together, but they do go together. When I look at the universe, and I think of particularly something like the Big Bang, the great question I always ask.
The TV show? He's
Yeah.
clearly talking about the TV show,
that
yeah.
you start on.
How did something like that come to be?
You know,
What could have created that? Oh,
I always ask questions, which I think is a good question to ask atheists. Why is there something rather than nothing at all?
But I would say I have no idea. And
there you
I'm
go.
perfectly content in that ignorance. I'm not
What would you say
having
to
to find an
agnostics?
answer.
Well, and that's a great example. There are religious people who can be content not understanding God completely and not understanding the universe completely. And so, if you can be
call them
content.
creationists.
Well, no. If you can be content seriously in not having to understand that, I can be content in not having to understand God. I can believe in a God.
okay.
No,
Well, I
let me
said
just
something
finish.
slightly
No,
differently.
I know.
It was
But
like
I'll
this.
just say this: I can believe in a God who I don't fully understand.
And I'm saying it's not that I'm happy not knowing, it's that not knowing does not force me to then come up with an explanation I can't justify yet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep searching. And for me, that is a sense of wonder that excites me and draws me to the frontier.
Well, and me too, and it draws me to trying to understand God better.
Let's see what Richard Dawkins has to say about past scientists and their religiosity.
I don't think he's going to like it.
Newton, Galileo, pre-Darwin. You couldn't not be religious pre-Darwin. At least, I mean, you could, but you would have to be very, very stalwart in your skepticism,
Right.
because I look around the world. It kind of looks almost obvious. This is going to get misquoted. It looks almost obvious that there had to be a designer, and until Darwin came along, Who can blame Newton and Galileo? So I'm deeply unimpressed
Okay,
by anybody
by that
who says-
argument.
By that argument.
Okay, so he's not impressed with religious scientists of the past.
Well, I just wonder if he's impressed with religious scientists of current day.
Oh, okay, well, I happen to have that
There you
clip.
go.
Let's hear what he says about contemporary religious scientists.
If you actually ask what they believe, they will talk about mystery of the universe, and they have a sort of reverent attitude, which I have as well, and I think you have. But then if you say, do you actually believe in anything supernatural? You call yourself Christian, but you believe that Jesus was born of a virgin or rose from the dead? Of course they don't. And so you've got to kind of subtract them off, I suspect. You subtract off the Einsteinian.
So the Einsteinian is that what Spinoza's God. Where
Spinoza's
if there's a
God.
God of the universe that is responsible for laws and things, and responsible for the universe that science observes,
But I
which
don't
is
think
kind of untestable. at
Yeah,
some
I don't
level.
think it would even be responsible. I think it was just God is the universe, which is a bit different from thinking that there's an intelligence that started it all. So I think you want to subtract them off.
Okay.
Einstein, unfortunately, muddied the issue by using the word God
Yeah.
rather
And
freely.
everybody wants to claim him
and
for
people
their...
therefore want to claim Einstein, rather like you're afraid of being claimed.
Well,
by
I
it.
just want to make my own arguments.
Exactly,
I don't want
but
to use somebody else's argument.
Einstein used God as a metaphor, and he said things like, what I really want to know is, did God have a choice in creating the universe? He simply meant, is there only one way for a universe to be?
Or the phrase, I want to know the mind of God.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right. So subtract them off, and then you are left with a few who actually do believe in the virgin birth. And I don't know what to make of them.
Okay, so he's got his sort of scientist arithmetic. So that clip led in with pre-established fact that about a third of Western scientists or American scientists would claim themselves to be religious. These are active scientists who publish papers. And so he's challenging the point that they are as religious as the sort of right-wing religious community might claim for them. Have you seen any of this in
Not
your
really. I mean,
travels?
I'm not sure if that's anecdotal. I don't know where that. I mean, the 1/3.
No, the
I
1/3 is,
understand.
we measure that. That's
But the
real.
idea that, well, they don't really believe all this stuff. I just want to say one thing. He did say basically that Einstein, when he used the word God, didn't know what he was talking about. So it is a strange thing to say that Einstein, was kind of deluded or didn't understand what God was. So I think we need to.
But no, if you read all of Einstein's references to God, it's very clear that God was metaphor for the laws of the universe, not in the way anybody else who's religious is invoking God.
Well, but I think that's assuming a lot. I mean, I think we can understand God in different ways.
We have to ask the question, if there is a designer, if there is a God, can you test for it? Because as a scientist, that's what we do. If you're going to make a claim, I want to test it. These are the methods and tools of our trade. And so I brought up this issue with Richard Dawkins. Let's see where he goes with it.
There is a designer of the universe. That is a stupendous scientific fact. It's not something you can say, well, we only think about that on Sunday. It actually would affect your attitude to the expanding universe if you thought that there was an intelligence that set it all in motion. And we may differ a little bit about this because you've been quite eloquent about the need to separate all that and just simply not ask the question, but just do your science well. But don't you agree that astronomy cosmology would look very different if you thought that the whole thing, the laws of physics, had been planned in advance by an intelligence? Isn't that a gigantic scientific fact if it were true?
I would ask if it were true, how would we test for that? Or if we supposed it was true, how might we test for it? Yeah, so do you have any thoughts on that? Because let me pose it a different way. If in fact the universe is the science fair project of a hyper-intelligent species, can we distinguish between that entity and what in your theology you would call God?
I think the answer to that question is, I don't know. But I often say this, with the greatest respect for Mr. Dawkins, Professor Dawkins, I really do hope that when he comes to the end of his life and he meets, and I believe this, and he meets God, I hope he will be pleasantly surprised. I really do.
He's been asked that question, and I can recite his answer, not verbatim, but in principle. You know what his answer is? He would ask God back, Why did you create a world that was so convincing of your absence?
How about because I wanted a little faith?
Oh.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, okay, come back in. Go.
I
how about
hope
this?
I hope
Or-
Richard and
or how
God
about-
do this for years.
Or how about this? How about this? How about this? Why did you insist on believing in something that you had to understand? Why could you not believe in something that was beyond you?
Wow, would be like a tennis match up there.
That's right. And you know what? I
the
think
gates.
God might win.